Hi, everyone. You're listening to Live with Necee. I am your host, Opal Bailey, and I have with me today Robin Lea. Good morning, Robin.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Good. Thank you for coming on our show, and I'm going to get right into it. So I would like to know, how did you start out being a caregiver?
I think my story is pretty typical from what I've heard from other people. I have a brother who was living close to our parents, and I lived in another state and had my life going on. But what I hear is quite often boys will not take up caregiving responsibilities. I received a phone call from my father saying that he and my mother had decided they needed caregiving, and my brother simply wasn't stepping up. They wanted me to move to Florida and start helping them out, and that's exactly what I did.
When you said start helping them out, what are some of the things that you had to help them out with or face when you came?
One of the first things was that they had both recently had close calls with car accidents. I've heard a lot of people talk about the fact that when their parents got older, they became concerned and had real struggles trying to get their parents to give up the car keys. My parents were more than ready to give up the car keys. They both had gotten to the point where they did not want to drive, and that was one of the first things that happened. Was I got here and they needed to be driven to doctor's appointments, the bank, the grocery store. They needed a lot of chauffeuring around, and we got right into that.
So how did you handle being thrown, in a sense, into something that was so out of your area?
This is something that is very close to my sensibility of educating yourself. And one of the reasons I'm glad to have the opportunity to be on this program is to encourage people to study and research before they get thrown in at the deep end. I did get thrown in at the deep end, and I had to enter a very fast, steep learning curve. Mm-hmm. But I think if you realize that almost everyone at some point, if they live long enough, is going to be either a caregiver or they're going to need caregiving themselves. Mm-hmm. This affects almost all of us sooner or later.
How did it change your life?
Well, it just totally changed my life. I had to give up my life and come down here, and just you become dedicated to taking care of whoever you're taking care of. And of course, for me, it was my elderly parents, but also you have people who are caregiving for children, for people they know who are in serious illnesses, and some people I've heard of who are caregiving not for family members, but they may be caregiving for a neighbor or a coworker or a church member.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How did you feel about being uprooted from a life that you were so comfortable and evidently you enjoy doing, and coming to take care of your parents?
I was very happy with my life. I had my dream job. I had a great circle of friends. I had a wonderful social life. Was very, very happy with my life. And I'll be very honest, I was very resentful of having to come and take care of my parents. This was not what I had envisioned for myself in my later years, and I was not happy about it. And I'll be perfectly honest, I'm still not happy about it.
Yeah. What are some of the challenges you're still facing, even after you have uprooted and come with your, and taking care of your parents?
Various challenges would be, you have to have a lot of patience. And especially, I'll be detailed about my situation, and that is I had a mother who had Alzheimer's, and I have a father who has dementia. I had to do research and find out that those are two different things. but both of them require a lot of patience to deal with them. When you have somebody who is asking you the same question for 15 minutes, and every time you answer the question, they just ask it again, you have to realize that there is something blocking in their brain, and they've got something on their mind. It's bothering them. They just cannot process the answer, and they will keep asking that question until you are really ready to just explode. But you learn some coping techniques. For example, distract them.
That's good.
Yeah.
So how would you distract them?
Well, with my parents, one good way is saying, would you like some ice cream? How about we have some ice cream? Or let's go out and sit on the balcony. Or just change the subject.
So when that happened, when you changed the subject, what did it do for them? Did they ask something different, or they kind of settled down or relaxed, or?
They'll just go in the new direction, because what's going on when they keep repetitively asking the question is that they've got that on their mind, and you just need to get them off from that. Mm-hmm. And once you do, they let it go. Now, they get up the next day or that afternoon or 3 days from now, but you just keep going. Mm-hmm. Some of the other challenges I got into with my parents, I wound up having to learn how to manage their finances. They were in their 90s, and with both of them having the mental challenges, they were trying to handle their finances and really had a number of forest fires going on that I was completely unaware of until they suddenly got into such a bad situation that they dumped it in my lap and said, here, we've got some problems. And when I started finding out what the problems were, my hair was on fire, but I had to learn to deal with those things. But other challenges are dealing with other family members. I have only one other family member, my brother, but he is a constant source of problems. He does not want to help out with caregiving, and he also comes over and he has some mental challenges, and so he goes into rages and he creates problems. He threatens and intimidates our dad, and does a lot of very negative things. So that's challenging in that I not only have to deal with my dad, but I have to deal with all this extra stuff with my brother, and that's really another challenge. Another thing is that you just feel overwhelmed. You wind up with so many things that you're trying to do, and you feel as if you're having to do everything. And a lot of the time you are worrying, am I going to catch everything? Am I going to handle everything? Am I staying on top of everything? It's so overwhelming. You don't ever get any time off. And I haven't had a vacation in 5 years since I've been here, and I don't expect I'll be able to have a vacation or take a break until such time as my dad passes away. And he's 97 years old, and the doctors all say he's in perfect health, and he's liable to live another 3 years, 5 years, 7 years. There's nothing right now that's going to cause him to die, and so I'm looking at a very extended time period. By the time he passes away, I'm going to be old.
Oh. How do you deal with the life needs if you've always tended to your parents? How do you deal with your life needs?
You absolutely have to continue to take care of yourself. And I hear a lot of people who are in caregiving who are just spending all their time with their caregiving duties. What I've come to realize is that you have to take care of yourself, because if something happens to you, what's going to happen to the people that you're doing caregiving for? You can't caregive for someone else if you aren't in condition to do that. And how you do that is you take care of yourself. I had already started doing some things to give myself some breaks, and I was feeling somewhat guilty about it, but I talked to the social worker who deals with my dad's case, and she was the one who brought it up. She said, I hope you're doing some things for yourself because you've got to have some kind of relief or you're going to go under. Mm-hmm. So I take some classes at the libraries. The libraries are a great resource, and I take care of my health, and I spend time with friends, and I try to have a balance.
Mm-hmm. So evidently, you're able to leave the home and do certain things by yourself, for yourself.
Yes, and the way that I'm able to do that is because I have assembled a team that helps me out. If I had not gotten these people together, I could not. And this is something I really recommend to people who are doing caregiving. Please don't try to do it all by yourself because you're very likely to crash and burn. And what I want people to know is there is help out there. You may have to struggle to find it because they're not going to come and knock on your door, but help is out there, and do your research, ask questions of other caregivers, and find the people, put together that team that you need to help you.
So how did you find the team that you needed to help you with your caring for your father?
One of the ways was I went to the library and I started checking out books on caregiving, and some of them had organizations that you can contact. I don't have a computer and I don't use a computer, so I wasn't able to go online and research organizations. A lot of people, most people have that as a resource. But talk to other caregivers, talk to your doctors, and you can look in the phone book, talk to people at your church, and just start asking questions and find people who can help you. So, of course, when you talk about putting together a team, you're going to think that the first type of person I'm going to talk about is medical. But no, I'm going to say the first person you should be talking to is an attorney. And one of the reasons is you need a power of attorney, because you probably won't know it until you come slam up against this. But what happened to me was that I had to take my dad to the emergency room. And when I had him there and I was trying to talk to the doctors about what did the test results say, what do you think is going on with him, what are we supposed to be doing for him, the answer I got from the doctors is, if you don't have a power of attorney, we legally cannot talk to you. Mm. And I said, but I'm his daughter and I have proof of identity and I need to know. And they said, nope, power of attorney or nothing. So I had to go to the attorney. I had to get a power of attorney. And I'm telling you, that has come in so handy so many times. I provided a copy to all his doctors, to the hospital, and now I keep a copy in a file in my car, because it's amazing how many times you're trying to deal with people on behalf of the person you're doing caregiving for, and they say, we have to have proof that you have power of attorney or we can't talk to you. Mm-hmm, so you need to get that power of attorney. It's also good to check in and see what other legal issues might be pertinent. For example, you really need to know if the person has a will. You need to know about the status of their ownership of where they're living.